Cuchulain opened his eyes. "Hang on, how do you think you're going to help me exactly?" he asked. Maybe in reality there was only one woman standing in front of him, for at that moment Laine felt singled out in all of her different parts and versions. But the wiser version she'd grown into shrugged. Who was he to make her feel intimidated? "I've just warned you, Maeve's army has crossed. The sleeping fox catches no poultry, as the proverb goes," Laine said. "Do you always speak in proverb?" he asked. Cuchulain's eyes held Laine suspiciously, with a greasy smile. She had seen it before, but not in a way she was supposed to have liked. Cuchulain caught Laine off guard by touching the space above her shoulder, without actually touching her at all. He was resting his arm against a tree. "I'm looking for the brown bull," she said. "I know exactly what he looks like because he belongs to me. He's my dream come true, and I can't give up on it, no matter what." At this he laughed. "You're crazy," he said. "If you want the rose, you have to deal with the thorn." She must have known how crazy she sounded, but she didn't care. "No one understands, but Don doesn't belong to Queen Maeve or even to Ulster. He exists for himself, and he should be prized for his versatility and multifaceted characteristics." He stared at her for a long time. "I'm a powerful shapeshifter," Laine continued. "Morgan, the Irish goddess of war. She's also part of me somehow. And Don Cuchulain, the famous bull, represents my aspirations." The crazy thing about a dream, Laine thought, is that it just keeps getting bigger, the more she set out to pursue it. That meant Don was changing too. He was becoming more than a cow. He was a cash cow now, and sought throughout all the land. If she didn't get to him before Queen Maeve and her army, she didn't know what would happen. Also, the thing about a dream was, it got scarier the further she got into it. The more was at stake, the more real it began to appear. The less she seemed in control of anything. She started seeing synchronicities, but she was not scared anymore, that nothing would ever be the same. It must have sounded strange to anyone who wasn't her, who didn't live in her mind and consciousness. But this was her imagination Cuchulain had stumbled into, not the other way around. It was not his place to judge her, and that was true of anyone who happened upon Laine's natural habitat. Morgan, who was Laine and not Laine, moved in front of her. "I can help you. I'll make the battle easier, not harder," Morgan said. "And we can find the brown bull together." Still, she found herself pleading. "I know what I could do for you. I can tell you stories," she said, without taking a breath. "What kind of stories?" he asked. "My stories teach the healing ways," she said. "A storyteller, huh?" Laine found herself shaking her head, as if she was sure of one thing in her whole life. She had at least one special talent, but really she was good at many things. This was the thing she was meant to be doing. She was a storyteller, who was able to change herself through the writing of her stories, and this alone was ample reason to try and keep Dawn safe. "I'm sorry, but you can't help me. You'll get in my way," Cuchulain said. "Excuse me, but I've got a battle to fight." "What about, our time together?" Morgan asked.
"You were burning like a summer in my heart, till you found another northern star."
Morgan's face turned pale, and Laine pictured herself listening to Patsy Cline's 3 cigarettes in an ashtray. And she was definitely in Montana again, driving up her familiar Roman hill after a bad day at the cafe. Probably that was just a song playing in her cassette. "Cool vintage," Laine said. But Morgan was a mess, and she wasn't listening. Her hair matched her face like an unexpected patch of wild poppies. The trees were blurry and there was snow on the ground. She was driving in her 1984 Subaru that her Uncle Reese called Big Red and that Dad had bought from her cousin. She had her arms crossed. Laine knew, but Morgan did not. There was obviously bigger things at play than her emotions, even though they were all she could see at the moment. She thought she had lost someone worthwhile, and that she was the one who is going to be missing out. Like steamy windows and a not too great heater, everything was foggy. "We can't help what anyone else does," Laine told Morgan. "The only thing we can do is head in the direction we want things to go. Northward, to the North Node. Your higher self, remember?" Laine reassured her to just keep working hard, to just keep going. But just then, the giant storm cloud came back, passing overhead, and Laine saw Dawn, who had been ripped up in the arms of Baroque the Enchantress, and was still resting there, in her arms. He seemed so calm, as if he trusted in the larger plan. the divine perfection of his journey, even when nothing felt right. And Laine tried her best to be a holy cow.
They hate when you elevate. They stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate.